Good day, people. My name is Osana Dariana, and welcome to my first podcast slash video called Into Me I See. So, this is my introduction, not only to the world as a new podcaster, but the introduction of who I am as a person and why I felt the need to begin this podcast, right? This podcast has been a long time coming. I mean, extremely long. If you only knew how long this was in the works and how many obstacles I put before myself, and I will say again, that I put before myself to get here. Um, some of you may know me as Aisha, and that's cool. That's my birth name. I will do a separate podcast explaining how I received the name Osana. It's very interesting. And actually, it goes along with this story. So, if I find room to intertwine that story with this introduction, I will. But for those of you who do not know me personally, I am, let me think, do I want to tell my age? Yes, I do. I am 51 years old. Mm-hmm. And I became an empty nester just a year ago. Well, almost 2 years ago now. Almost 2 years ago, I became an empty nester. So one day I just picked up everything, packed up my truck, and I drove south. And was I supposed to be an empty nester? Technically, well, kind of. You know, my oldest was 28 at the time, and my youngest was 16 at the time. So what I did was I passed, not passed, but basically I told my ex that it was time for him to become a full-time parent again because he once was. That our son had arrived to a point in his life where he needed him. He needed his guidance. He needed his training. He needed his father to be a model for what a man looks like, and that's something that I couldn't give him. So I felt that I had done my job for 16 years, and now it was time for my son to get manhood training, right? And that didn't require me. So I felt that that was the proper time. Plus, I don't want to say opportunity because it wasn't an opportunity, it was just a decision I made to move. And what I mean by move is not just physically move, but mentally and emotionally. Now, I said I was an empty nester, or I put myself in a position where I was an empty nester, but technically, I really didn't believe that in my heart. Um, Nor did I really think that in my mind. I just made a decision one day. And the decision came from things unraveling in my life as far as I thought. You know, anyone looking at me from the outside wouldn't have thought that. But I felt a pull. I felt something inside of me telling me it was time for a change and a new surrounding. I had to try something different. So I packed up my truck and I started driving south. No plan for anything. Not one. I did encounter a few obstacles upon my arrival, like not knowing where I was going to stay. I had an idea because on one of my previous visits, I stayed at an Airbnb that I really liked. It was a friend's daughter's Airbnb, and I really liked it. I mean, I really liked it. And I brought along a couple of friends, and they liked it too. So while we were there, I just applied for an apartment there to see if I can get it, and I did. I mean, in 10 minutes. If it was 10 minutes, they approved me and basically asked me when was I moving in. I had no dates, no nothing. You know, as a matter of fact, I don't even think I was serious at the time. I just applied. So I was approved, and I told them I wasn't ready to move in, but just hold it, just in case. How can you hold it? And if so, how long, And they said yes, and they would. And I can't remember how long they gave me, but I returned back to Detroit. And again, to me, things were unraveling. I had been on a long streak of entrepreneurship, and things were good. I had spent most of my life in corporate, right? But we'll circle back around to that. But again, things were unraveling to me, and I didn't know what to do, and I wasn't happy. And something about me, when I'm not happy, it affects every part of my life. So I tried to continue to move forward, and it was something in me, again, telling me it was time for change. So when I arrived to Georgia, I don't even remember how long. I know it was months later when I finally decided that I was leaving. It just came to me, and I just started packing. My kids were like, huh? What? You going where? But mind you, my oldest was a grown man, 28 years old, and I just left him the house. Here, son, here you go. I'm leaving. And then my youngest, he was with his dad. So when I arrived to Georgia, to this apartment that I had in my mind for months, and that's what they told me, was in writing and all of that, there was an obstacle. New management, new employees, they didn't know me. They had no type of consideration for me. I was just somebody, right? They didn't know where I was coming from, which was another state. That was all of the conversations I've had with the former staff, right? So when I got there, my apartment wasn't ready. It was a mess. And I didn't tell anyone. I did not tell anyone. They wanted certified checks, and my banks were in Detroit. And, I was like, I can't get you a certified check. Here's a card. They weren't set up to take cards. As an initial down payment for rent and security deposit and all of that, they had that in place for their renters who already gave them the, that first month's rent and security deposit, all of that, what have you. So I didn't have a way to pay for the apartment because they weren't taking a card. debit card or anything. And so it was a mess. But I pushed through that. But circling back, because I'm still here, okay? Obviously. But circling back to my life beyond or prior to this big change I made, and it was around my 50th birthday. Had just turned 50. My life. So I will start with saying that I was born to two parents that loved one another, really, really loved one another. However, their relationship didn't last very long. Something my father did that my mother just couldn't live with, right? So my mother was taken care of by him. And from what I was told, he was an entrepreneur and very smart. My mother thought he was good looking. And pretty arrogant and just maybe very confident. And so, my mother was young when she met my dad, and my dad was not young at all. But anyway, so, once this information was disclosed to her, my mother left. She took me and left. I think I was around 2 or 3 years old. I don't know. But I really didn't see my father much after that. My father was from a different state. And so I was a fatherless daughter. I don't know what he looks like. I'm 51 years old today. I don't know what he looks like. Not one photo. I've heard things about him from family. My mother gave me, information eventually after she got through her pain and her hurt that she had basically suppressed for decades. And, one day in my 40s, I decided to search for him. Now, I tried prior, but I didn't have enough information to really go off of. It was some things were kept from me for whatever reason. So working through that situation, I was able to kind of pinpoint a few things that helped me on my journey to find my dad. So after years of trying to find him, when I finally found him, found some information about him. The information I found out was he had passed. He was already deceased. So, and this was the beginning of my life. The constant wondering who he was, the information that was never provided to me, the consoling, the nurturing, the guidance. Like, certain people, you only know what you know, right? And you can only give what you have. And so it wasn't a typical situation in the family structure that I came from. Everyone knew their parents and was raised by their parents. So this was, a one-off and not something that was normal. So no one consoled me, no one talked to me, no one ever offered therapy or anything, because they didn't know that this was an issue, that growing up without one of your parents could basically scar you for life. Well, not for life, but scar you. and change who you are as a person. Basically, that's what it did. It changed me in a way where I was angry and sad most of the time, um, very low self esteem. I had no self value whatsoever because that was all associated with um, the nurturing part of my childhood. And there are certain roles that your mother plays, and certain roles that your father plays, right? And they help um, to establish certain characteristics and attributes that are in you, traits that are in you, like self-esteem and self-love and self-value and many other things. And so I lacked all of those. And I was told that when I was a child that I would ask consistently, where's my dad? Where's my dad? And I would go out into the streets, into the world, asking men, were they my father? Are you my father? Are you my dad? Are you my dad? How embarrassing that must have been for my mama or whomever I was with at the time. But I was shut down eventually from inquiring, from asking. And that broke my heart. The only thing that I had to remember my dad by is my dad used to send me roses, postcards from places he would travel. As a matter of fact, I have one of his postcards on my nightstand right now. But one of the reasons why I don't really like, or I used to not like flowers, not plants, but flowers, is because I would watch the flowers that my dad purchased for me die. And it resembled our relationship. So I never wanted flowers, and I never wanted to witness them just die slowly, just wilt away. So going forward, let me say this. My dad wasn't there, but let me tell you about the Creator and what the Creator did for me. Because although I did not have my dad, I had my granddad for a little while, who was like my dad. And then I had male figures around me all the time. My mother had 6 brothers, and somebody was around me all the time. But on top of that, I was an only child as well. I am an only child. So, and I had plenty of cousins. And so I didn't have to be alone, but I was. I could be surrounded by a room full of people and still be alone because of the story I told myself about not having my dad in my life. No one else gave me a story, so I made my own, which was wrong, dead wrong, but that's what children do when you leave them unattended and left to figure things out on their own. We as humans, we tend to contrive stories that may have all types of falsehoods to them. But I guess the story is better than not having one at all, right? I don't know which one is better. But anyway, moving forward, I had no problems with men, attracting men, right? And I think this is another, I don't know, maybe another way to console me through life. Like, I've never not known the love of a man. I've always known and felt the love of a man. Now, it didn't come from my father, my birth father, my biological father, but it did come from male figures in my life, either family or men that were trying to holler. I've always been a magnet for the male gender, always. So that's something I never lacked. And I know that was a part of my journey as far as learning to heal me, learning to see me more clearly through the relationships I've had, um, and learning gratitude basically, for even having the experiences, because some women do not. But anyway, moving forward, I was scarred from being fatherless. And of course, I started out zip zero. No one knew, because from a youngster, I grew up in a family. My grandparents were from the South, and they were strict in their upbringing of my mother and her siblings. And, a child was to speak when they were spoken to, and we did get whoopings. They got whoopings and they passed whoopings down. And so um, I stopped talking very early in my adolescence, because I felt like I wasn't being heard. I learned that through the whole situation with my dad. I wasn't being heard. My feelings didn't matter. No one even knew I had feelings about that situation. And so I just shut down. I became callous. I was very angry, like I said. No one knew. I suppressed that anger, but I felt it all the time. And in school is where a lot of the emotions that I was harboring would surface. People would call me mean, stuck up, Miss Goody Two Shoes, because I didn't talk to them. They didn't understand that I'm just not talking at all. I'm no respecter of person, you know. Um, Nothing you can do to add to my life. So, and that's just who I was. But did I talk to the little boys? Yeah, I did. But I was still really a good child. I really was. I was not fast. I just happened to attract boys. I guess they just thought I was cute. So that was just a part of my life. That was normal. All the way up through my life to this day. That's just how it is. How it was, how it is, and how it will always be. Okay? I'm declaring that right now. And that's how it is anyway. I don't have to declare it. That's just my life. But so very young, I met my first husband, and I was in high school. And I wasn't checking for him. I was with somebody else at the time. I met him at my senior homecoming dance. He was there with, of course, some other of my classmates, and I was there with the homecoming king, prom king, everything king. He was a very popular guy, and cute. And my ex-husband at the time did not give a damn, okay? So he even went up to my friend that I accompanied to the dance and asked him, "Is this you?" Because he had every intention on making his move, and he did. I thought something was wrong with him, the way he would stare at me. I thought it was crazy, because he would just stare. Anytime I looked around the room, it had a glimpse of him. He was looking at me. So I, like kind of weird, sir. What are you doing? And I met him again at another party, and I really didn't see how good looking he was the first time that I met him, I guess. I really wasn't concerned, so I didn't know how fine he was until later on. And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. He was, it was fine, okay? And it was getting finer and finer the older he got. He was a all-star player, basketball, football, and baseball. Oh my, oh my. He was just very smart. Very, very smart and very spoiled. Went to an all-boys private school. Had a Mustang. Yeah. Anyway, I ended up marrying him. However, we married very young. I think I was 21. And it was a lot going on through that scenario. I went away to college. I went to FAMU. I ended up leaving FAMU early because I fell into a depression. No one knew I was depressed. I had stopped going to class, and I just couldn't hang in there anymore and lie to my mother like I was attending class. I think it was an eye opener when I received when I received my grades from one of my semesters. Like, damn, I'm just not going to school. I don't know. I was in a fog. I was depressed, really, really depressed. And it's like everything was coming up, and I had no way of dealing with it. I didn't know what it was. My mother came and got me, but she said if I come and get you and bring you back home, you must pay for your college from here on. If you decide to come home, college is on you if you intend on completing it. And it was, and she was right. But I went home, and no one knew I was depressed. No one knew. My mother didn't. It was me being invisible. I was invisible. People saw me, but they didn't see me. They didn't know me, right? And so I went home and I got saved. I returned to the D and I got saved. I started going to Pastor Marvin L. Winans Church, and I was sanctified. I gave away all my short skirts. Don't say nothing about my short shorts today. I was in holy roller mode, tongue speaking, Holy Ghost dancing, all of that, right? In church 3-4 times a week, all day long. My husband, we tried to stay together while I was in school, but he wasn't my husband at the time. He was just my, I had broken up with him when I went away to school because of whatever. But when I returned home, we rekindled that relationship. And we were, again, he missed out on all. I was a virgin when I met him too. Let me just say that. And he was the first man that I ever had sex with. And so, but that was before I went to college. Just before I got on the train to Florida. No, but it was just before I went to college, right? So when I returned home and we rekindled our relationship, he was ready to get it on. He had my virginity and he wanted to explore more. And I was celibate because I was living for the Lord. Anyway, he continued to date me because he was having sex with other women. I didn't know that. Or girls, let me say that. I didn't know that. I say girls because we were still young. We were still kids, technically. In my mind, now that I'm 51 years old, But we remained close dating. I was his girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. One magical night, I was feeling an overwhelming, feeling overwhelmed with love for him. And we ended up having sex. Not even entirely. It wasn't, I felt so guilty. It wasn't even real sex. But anyway, I got pregnant from that. And we ended up, I didn't want to keep the baby. I'm just going to tell you that. My baby knows. I think my baby knows that I didn't want to keep him. But my mother put me on a bunch of prayer lists. The boss that I was working for at the time put me on prayer lists, and people was praying. One day I woke up, mind changed. I'm not sure if I was really out of depression at that time. I don't think I was. But if I wasn't, I went back into one harder than ever when I found out I was pregnant, because I was sanctified in church and I'm pregnant. And so that's when I started the real journey, because I was crucified at church. I was talked about in front of my face, walking through the halls of the church. Oh my, did they come after me. Now, we decided to get married, and that was a suggestion. It was not any idea that we came up with on our own. It was a suggestion that we should get married, and it was a very strong one. And so we did. I wasn't ready for marriage, and neither was he. But what we did know for sure was we loved each other. Definitely, love was not an issue. Love was not a factor for, a question. Let me say that. Love was not a question. We definitely loved each other, and we still do to this day. But we married too early. I was 21. I was in a deep, dark depression. I don't think he knew either. I was functioning on fumes, okay? And so it was so much that occurred within our marriage at that very young age. He gave up his dreams to become an attorney to support us. Now, he did get a good job at one of the plants. Detroit is known for automotive. So he did get a good job. Shout out to the ancestor, Dorothy Williams, which was my childhood best friend's mom. Okay, she got all of us. Well, my husband said I couldn't work at the plant. It wasn't a place for a lady, but everybody else was able to get a position. Those who wanted one, a position in Chrysler Automotive. And so I worked for the post office, and then I went on a corporate after that. Anyway, marriage was very difficult. I was not myself. I was depressed. And the only thing that really brought me back was one day I was coming out of my fog, because I went into postpartum very bad too. Depression, really, really bad. I woke up out of my depression fog, and I realized that my husband wasn't coming home. Yeah. He was a cheater. And I remember crying so bad. I had never cried like that in my life. I don't even think I cried like that coming out of the womb. You know how the babies cry. Really hard and bad. Coming out of their safe space. I was coming out of that space I had made for myself called depression. And surrounded by all types of walls. Where I guess I was hidden and no one could really see me. But that cry was the most cleansing and awakening cry I've ever cried. It was yells and moans and squeals and pleading and praying and all types of emotion and reactions just surfaced. I could no longer hold it in. And so it wasn't really about my husband cheating. Even though it prompted me to go into this cleansing experience. But it was really about the past too. My life, everything that I had suppressed, starting from a child. And not knowing my husband, that was one of his purposes for me, to help me begin the healing journey, to help me begin my healing journey, to help me to begin the journey of Into Me I See. And so, I threatened him, all that. But we didn't break up. And I think I had a couple of more experiences where he was caught cheating. And every time, one time I did break up with him and we parted ways. But there was a time where, I loved my husband. I loved him. And I didn't have a problem getting another one on our separation. It was knock, 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 knocking at the door. But I decided to go back to my husband, and I went back with a different mindset. And it didn't have anything to do with, you're a cheater, blah, blah, blah. It had to do with, you know what? I'm a bad motherfucker. And, I've been sleeping on me and what I offer and what I bring to this relationship. And so I started the self-love, self-value journey. I'm coming back, and I don't give a fuck who you dating, who you was dating on our separation, but I'm showing up as me. I'm not gonna ask you any questions. I'm just gonna spend some time with you, and if we can rekindle this to the point where we're back under the same roof, then so be it. But this is about me and finding out if you are still supposed to be my husband. And that's what I did. And I didn't stop him. I didn't have one conversation about who else he was seeing or sleeping with or whatever, because it wasn't about them. And something I didn't say was in the church where they crucified me about being pregnant before marriage. They were able to see me get married, and but not long afterwards, I forgot how many years, I just saw the church differently. Not only was it not a place of love, and that is what God was supposed to be, that's what we were being taught, but it was a place of judgment and condemnation and ridicule and all the negativity. Okay, I didn't really feel much of the high vibrational, high frequency energy of God's love. And I remember walking out of the church for the last time. I knew it was the last time. I would not come back anymore. And I asked God to remove everything from my memory that I had been taught about who the Creator was supposed to be, and to teach me in the way that was fit for me on my journey. Who was the Creator? Who is the Creator? And how does the Creator show up in my life? especially at this time where I was going through such a depression. So I left church, never to return. Well, as a member, never to return. And I was a member of that church for over a decade. So I was around 30 when I left, 31 or something like that. And I attended a white church, predominantly white church, because I wanted to experience the love of God through humans. It was okay. You did experience the love though. Very like, oh hi, how are you? Always wanting to hug and just say very beautiful things to you. It was love. It was love. And I was able to go to catechism and all the things that they do in the white community. Now the singing wasn't nothing. Now I came from Marvin L. Winans Church. Okay, it's hard to beat out that singing. No singing now. Like sit down. As a matter of fact, just bypass that because you don't know where I came from. And the food, it wasn't nothing like a black church food, soul food Sunday is what they call it. Soul food Sunday. Look forward to it every week, okay? But the love was there. The love was there. And okay, so let's fast forward on. I left that church too. I didn't join it. I just, again, wanted to experience the love of God through humans. And I started, so many things were coming to me. And it was more teachings about more of how the creator fit into the metaphysics. Because we're taught that God was, Jesus is God. And yeah, I agree with that. A human, right? But you don't make them very human. For some reason, we've been taught to think that he was perfect, and he wasn't. And they just left those notes out of the Bible. You just have to know who put that Bible together. Know his past and all his gaydom. I said gay, dumb. Anyway, so even though the church made Jesus perfect and he wasn't, and made it seem like he was celibate all his life and he wasn't, made it seem like he was never married and he was, just all the things I started studying or following historians and the things that they have found. So that's studying and with the historians and different religions and the metaphysics, and learning a little about all the other different religions, if you will, which are all the same, just another name, and maybe a few details change here or there, but it's all the same, all of it. Different languages, and believe me, English is the lowest frequency of language. It was created for the elite, and it was to be used by the elite, but there are some dumbed down versions, but believe me, the vibration in these words are nothing compared to other nationalities and their languages. They're more high frequency than ours, and that means a lot when we're praying. Anyway, I just new information was coming to me in a different way, what I had asked for. And it was all about really me. Knowing more about me opened the doors to learning about the Creator. Because I wouldn't be here without the Creator. I am made in the Creator's image. No, his image. There's no gender. We all can't be made in his image if some of us are females, right? And we're all first created as females in the womb. female chromosomes and you morph into a male. So the creator cannot have a body, therefore cannot have a gender, which means the creator must be energy. And so just learning more about what I am, how I made this body does not, I guess, encompass the energy. Like the energy, the body is inside of the energy, if you will. Our energetic bodies, the auras, extend 6 feet beyond our human body. So the body is not even enough to contain the energetic force, power that we are. And that's some of the stuff that I was learning about who am I? Who am I, not as the personality that I've morphed into from my disappointments and my heartbreaks. You know, who am I coming from the creator? Who was I when I first entered this world? When I didn't have any of my, I guess I didn't have any persuasions to be or not to be a certain thing based upon the fears of my nurturers, where they were imparting in me what they thought I should and shouldn't do or be or say or what have you, while they were molding me from their life experiences, which had nothing to do with me and mine and my purpose. But who was I authentically if I was left to just grow and mature into the woman that Aisha, because that's what my name is, birth name is, was supposed to be? Who? How would she show up? I know what she looks like, but how would she show up as a woman in this world? And that's what my journey was and is. And it started around the age of 30, 31. And in my 30s, that's the battle of learning who I was. It even came through sicknesses, which I'm still vulnerable to that, because how many of you know that this being that we are, which is not only flesh, but it is energy, it includes the mind, the body, the spirit, and the emotions, all of physical and all energy. The mind, the body, the spirit, and emotions, all of those make up what we see today, even though most times we just focus on the physical. And some of us don't even do that. But believe me, if one is out of sync, all of the others are out of sync. And that's something else that I learned on this journey. That's why if I'm not happy, my body's not happy first. It starts with my emotions. If I'm not happy, the physical manifestation of me being unhappy is sickness in my body. And so that's why happiness had to be a priority. And I really didn't get that until I turned 50 years old, when I said, I'm packing up and I'm leaving. On search of what is it in my life that I'm supposed to be doing? What is my purpose that will bring me a never ending supply of happiness and joy? What is my purpose? Because happiness and joy is already inside of me, waiting to be utilized. But what is it that I'm supposed to do with this body in service to humanity that is fulfilling and is associated or is my purpose for being here. Now I have many purposes, and we will talk about that. Not many, but a few. One of them being um, my purpose is not to be taken care of by men. My purpose was to get it on my own for myself. And I hear a lot of men, I need a man to take care of me, pay my bills, blah, blah, blah. I don't need that. It would be nice, but it wouldn't last long because I would still be out there doing what I do. But that's not my purpose. That is not my purpose. My purpose is to be down here and master the manifestation of resources in all forms in a unlimited supply. So that is a part of my purpose. And that's why if you see any of my videos, you've seen me say, I don't need you to pay for a dinner. I can do that myself. I don't need you to pay for a date. Not while I'm getting to know you and I'm trying to decide if I'm keeping you around. I can handle that on my own. And I can, because it's my purpose to be able to supply all of my needs through the Creator. I'm supposed to learn my value and my self-worth so that I can tap into that vibration. It's all tied to my value and my self-worth, my esteem, my confidence. And that is why it took me so long to come before you, because it was all associated with being enough, feeling like I'm enough, thinking that I'm enough to sit here before you. So this podcast will be about Into Me I See, my journey. And you will be able to get gems here and there, if not along the whole trail, along the whole path. But you will see how men helped me come into the realization of who I am and how they continuously show up for me. And it's because of how I think and how I feel about me. And I love them. I love them. And I also will share with you, not only the ability to attract men consistently in my life, but the kind of relationships that I have with men. Like my ex-husbands too, we'll talk about that, and our relationships to this day, I love them both dearly. We're still very close, and they have other relationships. My ex-husband just got married, so congratulations to him and his new wife, who's very sweet. And so family, still family. So you would learn from that how I learned, and this is who I have become, because this is who I was supposed to be naturally, but unfortunately it took all of my life to get here. You know what I'm saying? Along the way, I've learned many things and started changing and incorporating, that part of me that I tapped into, that was the real me. Genuinely, it was me. So men have helped me become my authentic self, and I'm still going through that. So we'll talk about me dating. We'll talk about the men that I date and the lessons that I learn continuously and why I date the way I date. We will talk about illnesses, because that's something that I dealt with often since my 30s. My last baby. After my last baby, my first diagnosis was diabetes. So we'll talk about that and how I learned to be a healer, because that's who I am. And that is associated with my new name, Osana, which means healer, and how I was given that name. I didn't choose that name for myself. And so the men the sicknesses, the jobs. Well, I haven't had many in my life. I only had a few. I've given most of my life to one profession in my life. But I wasn't supposed to do that. I was supposed to be an entrepreneur all my life. But I've had a business most of all of my life. I've always had a business. So we'll talk about that. And me being a mother. And the transition I made in my nurturing. And so many other things we'll discuss here on my podcast, Into Me I See. I'm telling you, it's going to be very interesting. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. I'm not sure what you think about the story that I've told you so far, which is just my life, and I really never talk about it. As a matter of fact, the reason why I decided to is because I was talking to one of my cousins about a week ago, and I realized that most of my family didn't even know what my profession was for most of my life, and I basically retired from that like 7 years ago. They didn't know how I felt about not feeling worthy or having much self-esteem or anything. They didn't know any of that and how that was associated with my daddy being absent from my life. So there's a lot of things that my own family still don't know about me. And I'm going to share because some of those things were events of the past, mindsets of the past, emotions from the past, and some of them I'm still working through. And so I felt that I would use this introduction to just tell a little of my story, the untold story. It was so many things that I left out, but hey, I'm going into an hour of recording. I'm gonna have to make this a part 1 and a part 2. This will be very interesting, guys. Into Me I See is what I named this podcast because this is the journey I am on. Self-discovery, which I already know who I am, and I'm still unraveling more and more and more. Yes, there's still so much to know about me, and I'm at the big age of 51 years old, and so I'm going to bring you some humor because I can be funny sometimes. Everything will be light. You might get a few tears here and there because, again, as I talk, this is how I do DIY therapy. I talk. And so it just happened today with one of my guy friends. I was trying to hold back something in particular, and the more I talk, and I was like, oh, the truth is coming out. When I was really trying to hold back some stuff, but I can't. If I talk, it will come out. If I talk long enough, it will come out, because there was a time in my life when I didn't talk. I just observed. I was an observer, and I still am. And, I have a few gifts that I can see things just by observing. I can hear what you don't say. I can see things that I shouldn't know, But again, that has a lot to do with my journey of my physical journey and how my health is, because if I'm foggy or I'm congested like I am now, my channel gets, kind of cloudy, and I can't hear as well. So, or I see things as well. So it's a lot. All of this is all combined: my physical, my mental, my emotions, and the spirit, the relationship that I have with the Creator. Okay, that's all intertwined. One can't be off without the others being off, and I will also explain more about what I mean by that. So this will be a good time here, especially when I talk about the good men folk, because some of you ladies, you really need to hear what I have to say about the good men folk, but and how the role they are supposed to play in our lives. Now, you may not all be like me, where I think my purpose is about me turning water into wine, me making a life for myself, money for myself, providing for myself, that type of thing. And I've been married twice, so, but still showing up in a way that a man desires is what we're going to talk about. Now, I may not have all the answers, but I'm definitely a desired choice out here in those streets. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you made it to this point, thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to meeting up with you every week for Into Me I See. Blessings. Peace.